Forced love crazy criticism, Fei Qin Banquet, 1v1 no normal person, lightning protection. Non-double clean, labels are automatically generated, please do not enter if you mind. Fei was carefree abroad and was caught by his brother Yi. He was sent to his friend Qin Yan for good discipline. On the first day, Fei, who was ignorant and inexperienced, encountered the embarrassing situation of Qin Yan, so the two of them stumbled, and neither of them looked down on each other. Fei is ruthless and cruel. In his world, there is no love, only slaughter. Because the shadows of childhood distorted his character. But I never thought that the closer I got to the truth, the farther away I got from Qin Yan. Fei, who didn't know how to love, met Qin Yan who wouldn't love him. Chapter 1. Capturing Consorts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How many times have you been this month? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, are you going to dye your few strands of hair a rainbow color? Chen Ling, as a counselor, helplessly looked at the tall boy standing in front of him, with a straight posture and a carefree appearance. He thought he didn't hear anyone talking to him. If it weren't for his attractive appearance, Chen Ling wouldn't have given him the opportunity again and again. Don't you think it's gray? We can't discuss anymore. He sat down on the teacher's desk next to him, and all the documents fell to the ground with a clatter. He didn't even lift his eyelids, swinging his long legs to look at the man 3 tables away. The man seemed to be immersed in his own world, never lifting his eyes to glance over here from beginning to end. The ceiling fan blew the hair at his temples, and his black-framed glasses couldn't conceal his dark and deep eyes. Fei, are you really listening? Chen Ling shouted loudly. The cicadas chirped one after another in the summer, and Fei only saw the little girl at the door standing shyly next to the man holding a notebook. Teacher Qin, I have a question I want to ask you. After saying these words, his ears turned red. I heard you. I'll shave my head tomorrow. Fei jumped off the table, stepping on the courseware of those unlucky teachers, automatically blocking Chen Ling's loud voice, and walked straight to the man's side. The girl lowered her head, the man took her book gently, the slender finger pushed his glasses, and Fei walked to the girl. A cheap perfume made him dizzy. He gently pulled out the letter hidden in the pants pocket behind the girl, and walked to the door without looking back. The delicate font on the pink envelope paper reads, Qin Yan teacher, collect. Fei smiled and then tore it into pieces, turning around and throwing it into the corner trash can. Whistling as he walked, he took out his headphones from his pocket and played Manson's Death Rock. He sat on the stone pier outside the school, dialed Lin Zhe's phone, rang twice across the street, and then answered the call. Hello, what's up? That old woman named Chen Ling, teach her a lesson. Anyone with a broken arm or leg can do it. Do it clean. Aren't you in Songmyang? Why, I can't bear it in a few days. Lin Zhe joked, stop talking nonsense, can we do it? Fei stomped out his cigarette and said impatiently, sure, there are plenty of ghosts to replace the dead. Don't worry, let me do it. But I said, have you seen that man? Stop talking, hang up. Fei pressed the shutdown button and stood up to pat the dust off his body. 3 months ago, Fei was just arrested from the United States, and his older brother Yi used connections to put him into the freshman of S University. Yi is not a kind and caring character for his younger brother, just can't stand his appearance of being free and ignorant outside, and insists on taking care of him as an older brother. My old friend's name is Qin Yan. He is currently teaching literature at S University. You can move to his house. I've agreed with him and he will take care of you. I'm so grown up, do I need someone else to take care of me? Fei complained discontentedly, if it weren't for Lucy cooking and cleaning at home, your dog house would be habitable. Your pile of takeout boxes would have grown maggots, right? Follow them to cultivate your mind and body, and come back to inherit the family business as soon as possible. Alright, it's more annoying than a woman. Send me the address. After Fei hung up the phone, the WeChat prompt sounded, and when he clicked on Ye's successful person's profile picture, there was only one location on the interface. The last time they chatted was a year ago. They didn't need to use chat apps to chat, so Qi drove to block him for important things. After opening the location, the route shows that it is not far from the school, and it takes 15 minutes to drive there. The name of Zhongxiu community is elegant, and indeed, these cultural people love to live in such a charming place. He sent another message to Linjie, "It's my first time visiting a stranger's house. What should I bring with me?" Linjie replied quickly, "Big brother, do you quite understand etiquette? For girls, bring a box of condoms. For boys, just bring some lubricating oil. Go away, you shouldn't ask him too much." There are quite a few small shops on the streets outside the community. The name, Ferryman, is quite unique, with transparent glass windows on the outside and various small items displayed inside, miniature furniture, and various handicrafts. The boss was wearing reading glasses and looking down to work when he saw Qi Fei walking in. He was taken aback for a moment and casually asked, "What kind do you want?" Qi Fei just thought those little things were interesting, but it didn't seem appropriate to give them away. On the other hand, the blue chrysanthemums at the door were quite rare. He pointed to the boss and said, "Just this one, help me wrap a bouquet." The boss stopped his work and looked at Qi Fei again. He neatly packed a piece of white packaging paper and handed it to him, 88 yuan. After paying the money, Qi Fei slowly walked into the community. This community was very different from what he had imagined. He thought it would be a secluded and elegant residence, but he didn't expect it to be an old and dilapidated old community. The distance between buildings was squeezed, making it particularly oppressive. The walls began to peel off due to years of disrepair, and several bald trees were lifeless. After turning and taking a detour, he finally found Building 6 on the address. He thought he would arrive soon, but when he saw the number 502, Qi Fei stood despairingly downstairs, looking at the long stairs. It was really unlucky that there was no elevator. For Qi Fei, who has been exercising all year round, the 5th floor is no problem, but at the moment he rang the doorbell, he had no thoughts about it anymore. After ringing 5 times, footsteps appeared inside the door. Qi Fei tidied up his expression, and as soon as the door opened, he tried to squeeze out a smile. However, he didn't expect a woman to open the door. "Who are you looking for?" The woman's hair was a bit messy, and she also buttoned her pajamas wrong, revealing a beautiful collarbone. Seeing Qi Fei staring at her, she cautiously pulled her collar. "Does teacher Qin Yan live here?" Qi Fei glanced at the door sign again with uncertainty. "What are you asking him for?" "He's not here," the woman said coldly, without any intention of letting Qi Fei in. Suddenly, there was a noise inside the door, and a man's voice came, "Xiaoying, who is it? Are you lying to me?" Qi Fei raised his eyebrows and said discontentedly. He didn't like others lying to him the most. "I saw the man walking out with his upper body bare and only wearing a pair of boxers." The woman panicked and wanted to push him in. "It's really interesting," Qi Fei thought. "I said he's not here, so hurry up and leave." Qi Fei didn't leave yet, lit a cigarette at the door and sat down. He didn't forget to turn around and smiled. "You guys keep going, I won't disturb you." The woman's face turned pale with anger, and the man put on a shirt and ran out. In a fit of anger, he pulled up Qi Fei's collar, and the smoke from Qi Fei's mouth spat into the man's face. "Get lost," the man shouted angrily. Qi Fei was not angry either, calmly holding onto the still burning cigarette butt and pressing it hard on the man's hand. The man immediately released his hand and screamed in surprise. Chapter 2. Liveliness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Yan was still in class when the phone rang one after another. He waved his hand and walked outside the door to press the answer button. "Hello, who is there?" "Teacher Qin," a familiar female voice. I am your neighbor next door. Your family has had an accident, come back quickly. Your wife has asked them to kneel at the entrance of the community." The neighbor's voice was urgent, and Qin Yan's hand holding the phone stiffened in mid-air. He then spoke calmly, "Okay, I know, thank you. I'll be back soon." After hanging up the phone, he had the students finish class in advance, picked up his bag, and hurried back. A circle of people gathered at the entrance of the community, all of whom were watching the excitement. He pushed aside the crowd and finally managed to squeeze in. After everyone recognized him, they all gave way. In the center of the crowd were his wife and a stranger. They were kneeling on the ground in disheveled clothes, with two signs hanging around their necks. Adulterous and promiscuous. Sitting beside them was a young boy with dazzling blue hair, casually smoking a cigarette and looking at Qin Yan. Qin Yan took off his windbreaker jacket and draped it over his wife's body. He turned to everyone and said, "It's all a misunderstanding, let's get lost." The gossiping aunties in the crowd have already started eating melon seeds, and they are not willing to miss such a wonderful post-dinner conversation. My wife looked at him with tearful eyes, and the man next to her covered his hand, probably injured. "I don't want to hear anything now. You can take a taxi to the hospital," Qin Yan said. Without glasses, his eyes were surprisingly blue, and Fei looked at him curiously. His slightly yellow and sharp short hair, exquisite facial features that make people unable to shake their eyes, deep eye sockets, and high nose bridge, he should be a mixed race, emitting a scholarly aura from top to bottom, truly worthy of studying literature. After seeing off the person, the crowd also dispersed. Qin Yan walked up to Fei. Fei stamped out his cigarette butt and looked up with a smile, saying, "Hello Teacher Qin, my name is Fei. Which one is not causing trouble?" His mouth curved upwards, his face wild and unrestrained. Ye's younger brother. He truly deserves his reputation. Qin Yan walked forward, and Fei followed him until he returned to his doorstep. Qin Yan took out the key to open the door, and Fei followed in impolitely. He reached out and handed the bouquet of chrysanthemums to him. "Greetings. Can you give me chrysanthemums when we meet?" The ferryman at the doorstep bought it. "It looks good." "That's for funeral business," Qin Yan said helplessly. Fei didn't feel embarrassed either and casually said, "It's a perfect time to pay tribute to your deceased marriage." Qin Yan sat down on the sofa, loosened his tie, and asked him discontentedly, "Do you think it's really fun?" Fei ignored him and sat directly across from him, answering Fei's question, "Which room do I sleep in?" "Fei, I don't like your attitude." "So what?" "Teacher Qin, I don't care if you like it or not. My brother asked me to come over, so I came over. Then recognize your situation and communicate with me well." Qin Yan was a bit angry, and he even frowned, looking pretty. Fei didn't seem to be able to communicate well with others, so he walked straight to the bedroom and saw the messy bed. He rolled up the blanket and duvet cover. Before Qin Yan could react, he took out a lighter and lit the bedding, then threw it down from the 5th floor. He clapped his hands and walked back to the bedroom, saying to Qin Yan, "Then let's take this room." "This madman." Qin Yan quickly took out the fire extinguisher and rushed downstairs. Fortunately, the fire was not too big, otherwise it would have alarmed the fire brigade. He really lost face today. After tidying up the mess, Qin Yan dragged his tired body back home and saw that Fei had already fallen asleep. He dialed Ye's phone, but he still hadn't recovered. Yi seemed to have anticipated it and said, "I guess you've already seen him. You think my life is too boring, right?" Yi smiled and said, "He doesn't have anyone to rely on in China either. Can you help me take care of him for a while? When I return to my home country, I'll take him back. At most for a month. I'm afraid he'll demolish my home." Qin Yan was so tired that he lay on the sofa. "Okay. I have something to attend to and can chat when I have time." "Okay, go ahead and get busy." Hanging up the phone, Qin Yan closed his eyes and rested for a moment. Recently, there were some agenda items to be done, and the schedule was full. However, he was physically and mentally exhausted. He originally only wanted to take a nap, but he really fell asleep. A burnt smell drifted in, and Qin Yan woke up from his sleep. The clanging sound of jingling came, and he rubbed his eyes before seeing the blue-haired boy in the kitchen searching around and holding a spatula. "I'm hungry." He leaned against the door frame and stared at Qin Yan. Qin Yan stretched his limbs, got up, took the shovel from his hand, turned off the natural gas, and sighed as he looked at an unknown black object in the pot. "There are only some noodles left in the refrigerator. Can I add 2 more eggs?" "It's all fine," Fei said nonchalantly. "Then you go sit at the dining table." This time he was very obedient, holding his head with one hand and watching Qin Yan tidy up the mess. "Will you get a divorce?" he asked. The water in the pot was boiling, and Qin Yan didn't look back and said, "That's my business." "You don't seem to be sad." "So you already knew, did you?" Fei asked relentlessly. It's strange why he can be calm and composed, even though it's not a small matter. The betrayal of his wife even led to a blatant demonstration at home. "Didn't your brother teach you to inquire less about other people's affairs? Even if they do something wrong to me, it's not a reason why you hit someone and force them to make a fool of themselves in public." Qin Yan brought his face to him, his heat rising, and he carefully examined the young man's appearance for the first time. He's only in his early 20s, and his strong physique is much better than himself. I don't know what children nowadays grow up on, and he's 1 head taller than himself. He picked up his chopsticks and wolfed down the eggs, swallowing them one by one. As he ate, he said, "I grew up this big myself. So don't use anyone to morally kidnap me. Especially you preachy people. Fei, this is not a shelter, and I am not your relative either. I think if you are not willing, the door is there and you can leave any time." Fei stopped his chopsticks and leisurely leaned back in his chair, leisurely looking at Qin Yan. "It's pretty good. It would be even better if you put less salt," he said, referring to the bowl of noodles. "In fact, living here, Fei also has selfish intentions. When my grandfather knows he's back, he will definitely send someone to look for him. He definitely wouldn't have thought he would live in such a discreet and dilapidated community. As for who I live with, I don't care at all." He suddenly stood up again and approached Qin Yan, his tall and strong physique particularly oppressive. Even the shadows on the wall reflect the difference in figure between the two people. "But I don't want to see that dirty woman again," he said in a low voice, with a gleam in his eyes. Chapter 3. Revenge. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I don't have time to talk to you nonsense. Qin Yan felt uncomfortable under his gaze and walked around him straight to the bedroom. The empty double bed only had a mattress left. He opened his wardrobe and looked up. The winter blankets are placed in the top cabinet, and even if you stand on tiptoe, you may not be able to reach them. As soon as Qin Yan reached out, he felt a warm sensation behind him. Fei pressed against him, his long arm crossed his head, and he easily took it off. They were so close that they could smell the faint smoke on Fei's body. Pink. Fei threw the blanket in the middle of the bed with dissatisfaction. "This is the only one left. If you don't cover it, let it freeze." "What about you?" He turned around and lowered his head to ask him. Qin Yan didn't like his gaze, took a step back, and said, "I live in another small room." "Then I'll trade with you." "I can't sleep with the pink one." "Okay, it's over there." Qin Yan pointed in the direction. Then he bent down to make the bed. After a while, Fei stood at the door holding a gray blanket and said, "All right, you can take it." Originally, what he said about changing was changing the blanket, not the room. After everything was sorted out, Qin Yan changed into a plain cotton nightgown and looked very lazy. When he teaches at school during the day, he dresses up more maturely. After taking off his disguise, he is similar to young students and shows no signs of age. In fact, Qin Yan is 12 years older than Fei. "Did you come empty-handed?" Qin Yan asked. Fei was half lying in bed, squinting at him and saying, didn't we give the gift of meeting each other? Qin Yan found it really difficult to communicate with him and could only ask a different question, I mean, where is your luggage? It will be delivered soon, he said, and the doorbell rang very timely. Fei walked over and opened the door. Big brother. Why didn't you tell me you wanted to climb the 5th floor? Cough 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 cough. I'm carrying such a heavy thing. I'm almost exhausted, said a short young boy who appeared very immature while gasping for breath. That boy looks less than 20 years old, with a round face, big eyes, and a gentle appearance. How could you pretend to be like this? The boy looked over at Qin Yan and said, Teacher Qin, my name is Linjie and I am Fei's friend. Could you please take care of him during this time? Finally, there was a normal person. Qin Yan nodded and politely replied, No, could you please come and visit? I opened a boxing gym near the school and come over to play when I have time. It's on sale. He kindly took out his business card. Mr. Lin is young and promising. Young. Ha ha ha, I look small, right? Actually, I'm 30. I didn't see it at all and thought I was still a student. Fei pushed his luggage in, totaling 2 black 40-inch suitcases. Mr. Lin, come in and have a cup of tea. No, Teacher Qin can just call me Linjie. I haven't seen teacher for many years, so I'm a bit nervous. There's something else to do today. Next time I'm hosting, I'll invite you to have dinner with Fei. Linjie turned to look at Fei again and made an okay gesture. Be careful on that road, Qin Yan said. After Linjie left, Qin Yan looked at the 2 huge suitcases and thought to himself that there wouldn't be 2 corpses inside. After all, he had never seen such a huge capacity before. And that Linjie, despite his quiet and thin appearance, could actually climb to the 5th floor alone, which should be quite impressive. The bathroom is there, you can tidy it up yourself. The faucet turns red and there's hot water, which doesn't need to be adjusted at a constant temperature. There are toiletries, toothpaste, toothbrushes, and other items in the lower left drawer of the sink. You can use the new ones directly. I have to keep busy, you can do it yourself. Qin Yan is a person with a sense of propriety, and he definitely doesn't ask or look at things that have nothing to do with himself. Being strict with oneself for so many years has indeed avoided many troubles. Fei closed the door and opened his suitcase. They were all his old friends, all kinds of cold weapons, military knives, daggers, each incredibly sharp. He held it in his hand and spun it a few times, and it was indeed the same feeling as before. Linjie sent him a WeChat message, Teacher Qin's face is really amazing. With a very cheap expression at the end of the sentence. Didn't you get a gun? Fei was not interested in men and didn't want to discuss Qin Yan with him. He only liked these cold and bloodthirsty guys. The investigation is now very strict. We smuggled a batch before and all of them were investigated. The situation is tight, let's wait for a while. Gun smuggling has always been a direction of strict crackdown. After staying in that free country of the United States for a long time, he is no longer accustomed to such a comfortable life today. Even my fists have become quite stiff. When I hit that adulterer today, my movements were noticeably slow. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been a fracture, but a comminuted one. At this moment, Fei heard the cry of a woman coming from outside the door. Through the crack in the door, he saw the woman named Xiaoying sitting in front of Qin Yan, her eyes red and swollen. I apologize to you on his behalf for what happened today. Then, let's get divorced, Qin Yan said so lightly, as if he was just asking what to eat for dinner so easily, with no ripples in his eyes. The woman turned her back to Fei, her thin shoulders trembling and her head buried. Qin Yan, why do people like you want to get married? Qin Yan remained calm and didn't get angry, saying, didn't we each have our own goals? Are you not selfish? The woman suddenly laughed, with a crying tone in her voice. Yes, but I still hope you won't have happiness in your lifetime, she gritted her teeth and said. May I borrow your auspicious words? Qin Yan held the teacup in his hand with a smile in his eyes. Crazy. The woman raised her hand and was about to slap him. Qin Yan quickly reacted and stopped. We don't owe each other, so I won't accept this slap. You go. The woman was furious and knew she couldn't get anything good, so she rushed out of the door. Qi Fei witnessed the whole process, lying in bed with his hands crossed behind his head. Qin Yan was quite interesting, and Qi Fei raised his lips. The next morning, Qin Yan went out very early. He had morning classes and only left a note for Qi Fei. There is breakfast in the pot, bring it for yourself to eat. Qi Fei, with his untidy hair on his head, opened the pot, leaving several pieces of toast, a boiled egg and a bowl of corn congee. For food, Qi Fei is not picky, some can be eaten. After having breakfast, he leisurely walked towards the school. Qi had a lot of energy and could only push him to the sports department, which was in line with his major. So Qi Fei, who doesn't have many professional courses, won't be in a hurry at all. But today it's still a bit different, the more you go, the more you feel the danger approaching. He loosened his grip and hadn't eaten meat for a long time, so he came just in time. A motorcycle suddenly veered off the road and charged towards him like a madman. The next second, Qi Fei's iron rod was directly inserted into the front wheel, causing the motorcycle to lose control and instantly tip over. The rider fell a few meters away. Fortunately he had a helmet to protect him, otherwise he would have died without a doubt. He stood still, listening to the footsteps approaching behind him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6, and can you handle this quantity? Qi Fei adjusted his collar and his eyes focused in a second. Chapter 4. Assault. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In broad daylight, they chose to surround the deserted streets, unsure whether they were foolish or with a hint of clarity. Qi Fei's gaze swept around, only a few thugs and thugs the leader, with a toothpick in his mouth and sunglasses on, pretended to be very dragging and shook his body as he walked up to Qi Fei. I heard. Before he could start speaking, Qi Fei punched him and his 2 front teeth fell off in an instant. I'm sorry, I didn't feel like I heard anyone introduce myself. Qi Fei glanced at the man in sunglasses lying on the ground. In an instant, everyone surrounded him. The 3-legged cat's kung fu was weak when punching, with soft legs and feet. After walking a few steps, they almost knocked themselves out. Qi Fei quickly moved his body, and they couldn't react where the person was going. By the time they saw clearly, their fist had already fallen into the flesh. It took less than 2 minutes to tidy up these few things. Qi Fei glanced at his watch and then forcefully stepped on the man's finger in sunglasses, whispering, there are still 30 seconds left until 3 minutes. Let's finish introducing yourself that you haven't done yet. The sunglasses man grinned and wanted to pull his hand away, but he had no strength at all. He could only endure the pain and tremble nervously, saying, my name is Luo Ping. Yesterday, you injured my big brother. Qi Fei crouched down, his proud face stained with a little blood, making it even more terrifying. He pinched his chin with 2 fingers and said, then go back and tell your big brother, and be a person with your tail between your legs in the future. Yes, yes. He obediently lowered his head. Qi Fei was too lazy to look at him again and strode forward with only one shoulder on his back. He looked no different from an ordinary student at first glance, but his blue hair was really eye-catching and had a high rate of turning heads. He walked to a hair salon and threw his backpack on the chair. The clerk who had just opened the door inside was still tidying up and organizing. When she saw a customer coming, she immediately put on a professional smile. Handsome guy. Wash your hair or get a haircut. Qi Fei looked around the store, and a poster on the wall caught his attention. He pointed to the man in the photo and said, I dye this hair color gray-white. Few people can challenge this color because if dyed poorly, they will age by several decades and step into middle age. Handsome guy, are you sure? This color is not easy to take care of. The hairdresser, who was wearing leggings and was as thin as a bamboo pole, confirmed again. The master had not come yet, and he was not even sure he could mix it up. Moreover, this person looked very angry, especially when his hands were still stained with blood. Sure, Qi Fei looked for a chair and sat down on his own. Let's start, he ordered. The barber held a color card and compared it to him, shaking his hands uncontrollably. He was worried that if one was dissatisfied later, he might end up taking over their entire store. Let me do it. Suddenly, a voice came from behind, and a beautiful woman with flowing long hair appeared in the mirror. Her fair skin was slightly flushed by the cold wind, but it was just right. The little barber breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Master, you're very early today. Go pour a cup of barley tea for the client. I'll take care of it here." Okay. Her name on the work card is Jiang Nan. Her voice is very gentle and her attitude is also good. The hairdressing industry is also a semi-service industry, adhering to the principle that customers are God, gray-white, also known as grandma gray. Your face shape is quite stiff and has clear lines. This color is suitable for you and can make your whole body softer. She compared it with a color chart. Qi Fei looked at her in the mirror, with a pair of talking eyes that were particularly tempting when smiling. Jiang Nan. Qi Fei recited her name. Jiang Nan smiled and said, "What's going on? You're chasing me." Qi Fei shook his head and said, "If I'm not satisfied with the effect, I'll pursue you," he said half-jokingly. Jiang Nan smiled and said, "It's okay, it's all about chasing." Qi Fei has no fixed girlfriend and rarely establishes a relationship. In his view, these boring love affairs are a waste of time. He puts in a lot of effort to please an uncertain person, shape an elusive future, and then build a cage for two people. It's really ridiculous. Most people push themselves into the abyss one after another, and in this world, no one can fully accept another person but he can switch to a female partner. After all, men have physiological needs, the kind that is clean, obedient, and doesn't stubbornly fight. Just take what you need. He absolutely can't tolerate a relationship that lasts until he gets out of bed for a morning. The customer changed one after another, and Qi Fei felt his body almost stiff from sitting. Finally, he heard Jiang Nan say, "Okay, you can see the effect." Qi Fei closed his phone, and the last unlucky nut in the Plants vs. Zombies game was surrounded and bitten by zombies, destined to be a dead end. In the mirror, Qi Fei's blue hair was completely covered, with a grayish-white color scheme. He looked like a warrior shuttling out of a storm and had matured a lot, but the effect was indeed good, not bad. Qi Fei stood up and patted off his broken hair. He walked to the front desk to pay, and Jiang Nan followed him and handed him a business card. "It has my contact information on it." Qi Fei didn't answer and walked past her. The cold wind was blowing, and he zipped up his coat, half of his face buried in the collar. The nut that has been eaten by zombies has no resistance because it is only a defensive object and cannot be attacked. Just like, some people may disguise themselves well, but they are actually vulnerable. This reminded him of Qin Yan, and he suddenly had an ominous premonition, and his footsteps quickened in the office of the Chinese department. His seat is empty, and his presence was not found in the classroom. Those people in the morning should not only deal with themselves. After all, Qin Yan is the initiator of their relationship. On the corridor of the school, there were bustling students chatting, as well as discussing what to eat for lunch. He leaned against the railing and wanted to light a cigarette, but since this was the school, it was better to forget about it. Qin Yan, whether he is dead or alive, has nothing to do with himself. He boredly opened the game again, pressed the continue button, and the zombie took action again. Everything was about to end. "It won't die." A voice suddenly came from his left ear, and Qi Fei turned to look at him. Qin Yan was wearing a khaki coat, paired with a white shirt and trousers. The whole person was shining in the sun, and even his body was smelling good perfume. At the last moment, the nut exploded and perished with the zombie. The game ended and he won. "What about you? You're not injured, are you?" Qi Fei asked. Qin Yan leaned shoulder to shoulder with him, but he was still a bit shorter than him. He said, "I told you before, don't mind other people's business." Qi Fei smiled and looked up at the sky. It's my fault, I'll solve it. These days, I'll go to school with you. They stood together in a particularly eye-catching manner, with a mixed-race teacher with yellow hair and blue eyes, a mischievous student with a mischievous aura, and students passing by couldn't help but take another look. No need, Qin Yan replied as the class bell rang. He turned around and wanted to leave, then stopped and said, his hair is very handsome. In the last class, after discussing the tragic life of Empress Li, Qin Yan closed his textbook and walked outside with the bell ringing. The students all poked their heads to look. That boy hasn't seen him before. Which department? He's so handsome. Yes, he seems to be waiting for Teacher Qin. No way, little wolf dog and cold beauty, then I'm going to kowtow. The class exploded, and Qin Yan saw Qi Fei holding a lollipop. I said no, he said, I never owe anyone. Qin Yan knew he couldn't resist him and said helplessly, let's go. Wow. Perfect match. The height is also suitable. Teacher Qin's figure is not confusing to anyone. I will never submit love letters again in the future. After the person left, the heat still lingered. Fortunately, the person involved did not hear such absurd remarks. Chapter 5. Heavy Rain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Following Qin Yan to the garage, Qi Fei looked around and impatiently asked him, "Where's your car?" Qin Yan pointed to the small compartment next to the garage, which was the charging point for the electric scooter. The red and blue electric scooter inside was his. "Teacher Qin, isn't that so? It takes me more than 10 minutes to get to school from home, and starting from the 40-minute traffic jam during peak hours in the morning, I will definitely be late for going out late. In order to sleep for an extra half hour, I think electric cars are the best choice," Qin Yan said with reason. "So are we both going to ride this back today?" "It's not us, it's me. You can go back on your own. If you're caught by the traffic police violating the rules of carrying people, you'll have to pay 50 yuan to get out." He is still a person who is petty about every penny. Qi Fei didn't leave either, standing next to him watching him skillfully unplug the plug and put on his helmet. Even so, it cannot conceal his outstanding face. A passing teacher greeted Qin Yan, who politely responded. "Teacher Qin, have you heard that Teacher Chen Ling has broken her leg? So she hasn't been to school lately," the young teacher said with a gossipy expression on her face. Qin Yan stopped his movements and said, "I haven't heard anyone mention this yet. Let's organize a visit together in a few days." "That's right, I think the same way." Teacher Wang Nai also said, "Let's buy something to show our feelings." She thought of something again and said, "Well, it's suddenly raining rainstorm outside. Your electric car has no poncho and is wet at home. Let me give you a ride. It's on the way anyway." Qi Fei just looked at the poor acting skills of this female teacher, who showed all kinds of kindness. "No need. Okay, teacher, can I come together? I'm staying at Teacher Qin's house and I didn't bring an umbrella," Qi Fei interrupted Qin Yan's words. The female teacher felt a bit embarrassed, but quickly changed her face and said, "Of course, come up quickly." She then turned to Qin Yan and said, "Teacher Qin, hurry up, it will be a bit congested and time-consuming." Qin Yan saw that he couldn't refuse, so he compromised. The female teacher had already opened the door of the front seat, and Qi Fei sat in without hesitation, without looking at her unusual expression. "I feel a bit carsick, don't you mind, teacher?" She smiled a few times and said, No, do you want a bag?" Qi Fei shook his head. Qin Yan sat in the back seat and said, "Qi Fei, this is Teacher Shi who teaches modern history." "Teacher Cici." "Hello, I'm Qi Fei from Class 2 of the Physical Education Department." Shi pondered for a moment and said, "I've heard of your name, but it's the first time I've seen someone." The car started up, and it was indeed pouring rain outside. The wipers were not very useful, and soon the road in front of me became unclear. "Qi Fei, I feel a bit regretful to see you for the first time outside of class. We should have known each other a long time ago. She smiled as he turned the steering wheel. What does it mean? Fei looked at her and said, so, are you teaching our class modern history? She nodded and said, it's been over a month since the start of this semester, and your name is not on my roll book. Qin Yan gave a tactical cough and said, he just came back from the United States and may not be accustomed to the domestic teaching system. She didn't mind either. Of course, in modern history, Teacher Qin is more familiar than me. You can make up for him and keep up with him. I look forward to seeing you in class next time. She is not bound by details, but her intention to deliberately cater to Qin Yan is too obvious. It seems like I'm going to blurt out my confession the next second. Fei pretended to be an improved student and felt extremely disgusted. I really have some symptoms of motion sickness, and I vomited a few times. Fei. Qin Yan in the back seat called his name, and Fei turned his head. His slender fingers pried open his lips, and he stuffed a piece of chewing gum in. This can distract attention and prevent dizziness. The cold touch of his fingers still lingered between his lips and teeth. She glanced at the two of them and casually asked, are you relatives? No, my friend's brother, let me take care of you for a while, Qin Yan replied. The car has entered the community, and the road is bumpy and difficult to walk. She nodded thoughtfully and said, Teacher Qin, what number of buildings do you live in? Qin Yan glanced at the road conditions and said, let's just stop here. We can run in quickly by ourselves. I'll drive in now. It's not troublesome anymore. The road is difficult to walk and it's also difficult to reverse. See you tomorrow, Teacher Shi. After speaking, Qin Yan patted Fei's shoulder and opened the car door himself. Fei stepped out while undressing, his clothes covering the heads of the two people. Hurry up. Fei urged. The two of them ran frantically under their clothes, but fortunately the rain had decreased. Fei twisted the water on his clothes, his newly dyed hair faded a bit, and his face was covered in flowers. Qin Yan looked at him and couldn't help but laugh. Qin Yan took out a tissue from his pocket and handed it to him. Wipe it off, don't let your face die too soon, he said. Fei understood his meaning and took the tissue. Don't you want her to know your address? There is no need to delve deeper into the relationships between colleagues that have only reached these points. Two people walked up the stairs, one in front and one behind, with various small advertisements posted on the walls. They opened the lock, connected the sewer, repaired the air conditioning. Thanks to you, I'm getting divorced. Qin Yan suddenly brought up the topic. Fei looked at his back and replied, you don't seem to be sad. Because we are just a contracted couple, if I want to settle down, I need to find a local girl to marry. She wants a house, and I will pay her the down payment. Teacher Qin, if I'm not mistaken, she wants more. Her tears had already betrayed her that day. Qin Yan took out the key and stopped at the door. But I can't give her more. The key was inserted into the hole, turned and opened again. Behind the old door was a called home, extremely cold. Qin Yan took off his coat and pressed his rain-soaked shirt tightly against his body, outlining his body curves. Although he didn't have the habit of exercising regularly, his muscles were still very noticeable. Fei stared at it for a while. It was strange. He always exuded charm unintentionally, but he was unaware of it. So, we're going to be homeless soon. Qin Yan unbuttoned himself, one after another, his body faintly visible. Fei didn't seem to listen to him much, swallowed his saliva, and turned his head. Same-sex bodies don't have much to look at originally. Everyone is a man and looks the same. Perhaps it's because of his appearance. Even if he's abroad, this mixed-race person has more charm than local beauties. As Lin Jia said, they look really unique. A towel was thrown over, just above his head. Wipe it off, don't catch a cold. Qin Yan had already changed into his home clothes and asked him anxiously, "You were very strange from the beginning. Are you still feeling motion sick?" "It's okay." Fei took the towel and wiped it, concealing his confused thoughts just now. "Are you saying you want to leave the house for her?" "Yes. After all, it's a married couple." Chapter 6. A Kiss. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Did you go to bed? Fei asked straightforwardly. Qin Yan's face turned red and he said, "Are you kids speaking so directly now?" Fei placed his 2 feet on the coffee table and leaned comfortably on the back of the sofa. Teacher Qin is so traditional. It's common for men to be happy and women to love each other. When you look at each other's eyes, you can comfort each other in bed. This is what everyone needs. Fei stared at Qin Yan, looking at his indescribable expression and finding it even more amusing. It turned out that an old man who was so much older than him was so innocent. It's been some time now, and there are even people who turn pale when it comes to sex. "I don't like people getting too close to me," Qin Yan explained. "Oh. Is it a mental cleanliness obsession?" The higher a person places themselves, the more curious Fei becomes. Such knowledgeable and good-looking intellectuals can still hold their own as if they were jade. Qin Yan doesn't want to continue discussing this issue with him. Although they don't have a proper teacher-student relationship, he can still be considered an elder. Fei returned from the United States, where the culture is free, and young people's understanding of sex is naturally different from that in China, but compared to having casual relationships with others, Qin Yan still appreciates the inherent subtlety of Easterners. Let's change the topic. For example, do you have a girlfriend? Qin Yan sat down on the sofa next to him and casually turned on the TV. "No, I'm not dating," he replied. Urban romance dramas were playing on TV, and actors dressed in professional attire were portraying the lives of social animals. In their spare time, they had time to talk about love and romance. Fei felt it was absurd. He hadn't been sitting in front of the TV for 800 years watching these fake dramas seriously. How could these people who hadn't experienced hardship act vividly? Qin Yan, whose hair was still dry, had one less button on his pajamas, revealing his fair skin and sexy collarbone. He couldn't help but take a few more glances. The doorbell rang. "Here's the takeout." "What did you call?" Qin Yan asked Fei. Fei shook his head at a loss, and the male and female leads on TV began to kiss, attracting Fei's gaze. Qin Yan walked over and opened the door, thanking the rider and placing 2 large bags on the dining table. He glanced at the name on the takeout list and it read, "Mr. Qi." In no time, Fei received a call. "Hi, can you tell who I am?" A woman's voice was coquettish. "I don't know, you called the wrong number, right?" Fei was about to hang up when the other person immediately said, "Fei, I'm downstairs from you." Fei only saved the phone numbers of Qi Yi and Lin Zhe in his phone, and even Qin Yan did not ask for contact information. Many people he did not like to be infected with were not allowed to appear in his life, especially for those who have tried before but don't remember their names. If both parties are willing, there is no need for a broken bond. "If you don't come down, then I'll go up." The other party refused, and Fei didn't want to cause trouble for Qin Yan. "By the way, have you received the takeout I ordered for you? Take a box of TT from inside and choose the one with the polka dot that I like. I'll wait for you." Delivery. It was already late, and Qin Yan had already seen what was in that bag. The two of them looked at each other and stood awkwardly in place, handing the bag to him and whispering, "It seems it's for you." Fei ran over to take the bag and turned to Qin Yan, saying, "I have something to do when I go down. I'll come up later." After finishing speaking, Qin Yan disappeared without a trace. He opened another bag and found that it was all food. Coincidentally, his stomach was also hungry. He picked out a few bags of snacks and huddled on the sofa, watching TV while eating. As for what Fei was doing or who he saw, he didn't care at all. A red car did indeed stop downstairs, and the window slowly rolled down. A woman in light makeup leaned out and said, "It's really difficult to see you." Qi Fei threw the bag through the window and said, "Did Lin Zhe tell you? Don't be so rude, it's been a while since I last saw you. Are you just not treating me like this?" Her voice was all sweet and coquettish, and men love this way. Her appearance and height are both outstanding, and she even puts it upside down, "Don't come here in the future. Otherwise, I'll kill you. Is that right? The golden house hides its beauty. Qi Fei, didn't you say you wouldn't waste time on relationships? Surprisingly, someone can make you reform. I want to see which kind of goods can make you feel at ease." "Shen Yuan." Qi Fei roared, and the girl didn't want to eat this either. She opened the car door and was about to run upstairs when she collided head-on with Qin Yan, who was littering downstairs. The situation was extremely awkward, and Qin Yan forced out a smile. "You guys talk," he said. Qi Fei's anger lingered, and he thought to himself that he must deal with that bastard Lin Zhe tomorrow. Shen Yuan met him on the plane when he first returned to China, and Lin Zhe happened to pick her up. It turned out that she and Lin Zhe were also good friends. Shen Yuan's whole family settled in the United States, and this time they came back to attend their best friend's wedding. She was beautiful and open-minded, and she immediately fell in love with Qi Fei. The two of them quickly got into a room and bed, as if everything was so natural. "I don't want to know why I didn't contact you, so I'll tell you." Qi Fei walked up to Qin Yan, one hand reaching over his waist, and the other hand pressing his head against him, lips pressed against his lips. Qin Yan widened his eyes and looked at him, and the garbage bag in his hand fell to the ground. Just as he was about to reach out and push, Qi Fei hugged him even tighter. He even took every inch to pry open his lips and teeth with his tongue, greedily wrapping it around his tongue. This kiss was really crazy. He kissed a man for the first time. Unlike a woman, the evenly matched entanglement was truly wonderful. Especially with Qin Yan's impeccable face and those sinking eyes, he suddenly couldn't bear to let go. Enough. Shen Yuan turned around and returned to the car. "Qi Fei, you're really good." After Shen Yuan left, the two stood in the darkness without speaking. Qi Fei lit a cigarette and handed Qin Yan one. Qin Yan, who had never smoked before, also took it. Over the smoke drifted into mid-air and then dissipated. The lingering kiss dazed Qi Fei's mind, and even his heart was still beating wildly at this moment. "Should we apologize or something?" Qin Yan took a puff of his cigarette ring. Qi Fei leaned against the wall. His perfect body proportions would attract anyone, but he was only in his early 20s. "Do you think you're at a disadvantage?" "Qi Fei, this is not a question of whether to suffer losses or not. I think you don't respect me very much. Is that right? They're all men, so what's the point of a kiss? Do you have any other thoughts? Or do you think I'm kissing you and you feel nauseous?" Qin Yan felt that he couldn't communicate with him at all. He always had so many excuses. In his eyes, it seemed like nothing was important and he could trample on them freely. "Yes, I feel nauseous. I've told you before, I don't like people being too close to me. I don't want this kind of thing to happen again in the future." Qin Yan pressed out his cigarette butt on the wall and threw it into the trash can. "Don't worry, I'm not interested in you," Qi Fei replied coldly. Chapter 7. Shen Yuan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At night, Qi Fei tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. He messaged Lin Zhe, "Come out and have a drink." Lin Zhe dialed the phone directly, and the sound on the other end was noisy, accompanied by the sound of music. "Hello, buddy, I was just looking for you. Come on, the bureau is ready for you." "What game? What other game is there? It must be a good game." Qi Fei found the clubhouse called Yude Hui at the address given by Lin Zhe. The name was quite artistic. Qi Fei had become accustomed to this kind of place, which was packaged in a classical style with an extremely luxurious interior. He is not someone who likes to be lively, but he definitely does not put on airs. After coming back for so long, he has tried to be as low-key as possible to avoid his grandfather, here. Lin Zhe waved his hand and saw 7 or 8 people sitting in a large private room, handsome and beautiful, all gathered together, waiting until they had finished drinking before bringing them to bed. As soon as Qi Fei entered the door, everyone's gaze turned to him. Qi Fei was equally tall and attractive, not to mention his recent gray-white short hair, which caught people's attention wherever he went. "Fei, you're blinding me." Lin Zhe placed his hand on Qi Fei's shoulder and introduced him to everyone. "Everyone, this is Qi Fei, my buddy. I won't introduce him too much. He's too mysterious. If he talks too much, I'm afraid I won't know how to die." Lin Zhe continued to liven up the atmosphere as usual, and after everyone greeted him insincerely, Qi Fei casually found a seat to sit down. The man next to him was thin and white, like a miner. He leaned towards Qi Fei and asked, "Are you also a student? Did you get pulled to make up for it?" Qi Fei was still a bit puzzled. "What does that mean?" "That's right, how much do you pay for one night? I heard this young master is wealthy and can give this amount in one night." The boy gestured with his hand, "probably 5,000. Qi Fei looked at Lin Zhe in confusion, but before he could open his mouth and ask, the door was pushed open again. "I'm late." Shen Yuan walked in wearing a big red dress. "The members of the team came so late, they'll be punished with 3 cups. Someone began to coax. Shen Yuan generously stated, "Something has caused a delay. I'll tidy up my mood and come over." She looked at Qi Fei with a smile in her eyes. "Isn't that right, young Master Qi? Are you still satisfied?" Qi Fei shook the red wine glass in his hand and looked up to ask her, "What do you mean?" "What do you mean? It's a change of taste, right? I found some delicious ones, you can choose for yourself. I'm going back to the United States next week, so I'll treat it as a gift for you." No wonder as soon as I entered this private room, I felt something was wrong. There were no fancy beauties left, and all kinds of men and styles were available. This completely angered Qi Fei, but Lin Zhe watched the show on the side. "Shen Yuan, this is quite boring." Qi Fei crossed his legs and leaned leisurely on the sofa. His aura was very strong, definitely not the temperament of an ordinary student, but the bloodiness that had returned after years of life experience. Whether in physique or speech, it was not suitable for his current age. Shen Yuan sat on his lap, her hands wrapped around his neck, her whole body pressed up, and her perfect career line could be seen in the moment she bent down in her strapless long dress. A beautiful woman in her arms, no one can hold on to it. Of course, none of the people here add up to you. You're quite impressive, you can find such a stunning beauty. Qi Fei held Shen Yuan's arm with one hand. She was so delicate, as if a gentle touch would crush her. The boy next to him, who was just asking about the market price, turned pale with fear. "Actually, I also have what you want." Shen Yuan's body was wrapped around Qi Fei like a spiritual snake, and the fragrance emanating from her body was particularly aphrodisiac. Her skin was white and tender, and it turned slightly red when lightly touched. Qi Fei felt a cold hard object touch him, and he looked up at Shen Yuan. Shen Yuan took a sip of wine and pressed it directly onto his lips. He didn't refuse anymore, but instead kissed her lips with force. The liquid flowed down the corner of his mouth and flowed towards the place that men all longed for. Qi Fei picked up Shen Yuan horizontally and slowly walked out of the room. Shen Yuan leaned against his chest and smiled. "It seems that you have really changed a lot." The room was already open, and the room card was placed on Shen Yuan's chest. Qi Fei slowly took it out with his mouth, causing Shen Yuan to itch and laugh. As soon as he entered the door, before he could turn on the lights, Shen Yuan was thrown onto the bed by Qi Fei. He bent down and pressed himself onto it. The man's strong body completely enveloped Shen Yuan, and he lowered his voice in her ear, saying, "Give me the gift." Shen Yuan wrapped his legs around his waist and lightly tapped his lips, "Then come and get it yourself." Qi Fei exerted a little force and tore open her skirt, exposing her fair skin to the air. Shen Yuan only felt a chill in her body, and then felt Qi Fei's big hand caressing her sensitive points from bottom to top. She was immersed in this wonderful touch, and her body longed to be penetrated by him. But he suddenly stopped. It seems you have found it. Shen Yuan covered his eyes with one hand. Qi Fei got up from her, pulled out the bedside lamp, and kindly covered her with the blanket that was a very beautiful revolver, with the number erased. Qi Fei couldn't put it down and admired it for a long time. Shen Yuan leaned against his shoulder and said, "Do you like it?" "I like it. Actually, I went to see you today just to see you off. Lin Zhe said you've been wanting it all along, and I happen to have some connections. Unfortunately, you're so ungrateful." She pretended to be aggrieved. "Thank you." Qi Fei kissed her forehead. "Just thank you. Don't you promise with your life?" Shen Yuan always had an intuition that Qi Fei wouldn't touch him tonight. "What do you want?" Qi Fei asked her. Shen Yuan's hand began to be dishonest again, reaching towards his pants, and Qi Fei pressed her hand. "I want to date you," Shen Yuan said, unwilling to accept it. "I'll go back and tidy up this time, and I'll be back soon. My parents and I have agreed to open a store here." Shen Yuan. "Don't act recklessly. No nonsense, we are all people who play among the flowers, and no one is better than you. I am 5 years older than you, and I can take care of you like a sister. And I can give you everything you want." Her eyes were a bit sad, different from when we first met. Qi Fei sighed and said, "You know, as long as I get out of bed, I won't have any relationship with anyone. I just need a bed companion." "That person. He's also your bed mate." Upon hearing Shen Yuan's words, Qi Fei felt inexplicably angry. "He's not." He quickly vetoed it. "So who is he?" "Your lover." "Shen Yuan, I don't want you to talk about him. He's just an insignificant person." Qi Fei pulled back the blanket and stood up, not wanting to continue entangled with her. "Qi Fei, I actually met you in the United States. At a coffee shop, you sat alone in a daze. That's when I wanted to get to know you." When she first met Qi Fei, she felt that the boy was particularly lonely. He was like a background, frozen there, and everyone had nothing to do with him. At that moment, she thought to herself, what kind of person could enter his heart? Chapter 8. Course Selection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The department has notified that students can now choose their own courses. Elective courses can be counted as additional credits added to the total score. There are a wide range of elective subjects, and each department will send excellent teachers to replace them. This year's popular courses still include Qin Yan's Chinese Modern and Contemporary Literature History. The competition for such a dull and boring course in literature is solely supported by Qin Yan's face in the office. The teachers joked, "Teacher Qin, as soon as your name is listed, we probably won't have anyone in our class." Old Zhang, who teaches Western economics in the finance department, was wearing a pair of reading glasses and interjected, "Xiao Qin, they are all jealous of you. If you are to be awarded a professional title this year, you must give it a try, young and promising young man. Teacher Zhang has praised me, I may still need to practice and hone," Qin Yan said humbly. She slid a chair over to Qin Yan and handed him breakfast. "It's hot." The old young pancake outside the door, 1 egg without coriander, and an extra order of ham, he said, "How much is it? I'll transfer it to you." Qin Yan had already had breakfast, but she didn't know how to refuse her kindness, so she could only draw a line, "No need, I didn't eat it myself, so I bought you an extra one by the way." There were still 5 minutes until class time, and Qin Yan didn't want to push around anymore. He walked out of the office with his courseware, and she looked at his back. WeChat rang, and he received a transfer of 20 yuan from Qin Yan. She sat on the side feeling lost, eating breakfast like chewing wax. The history of modern and contemporary Chinese literature is a boring course that hypnotizes all students except for those in the Chinese department who have not had the patience to read more than 100 words. Although classic quotes from literati such as Lu Sun, Hu Shi, and Zhang Ailing can often be seen in short videos, it is not so easy for them to quietly appreciate the changes and profound meanings along this long river. But this doesn't affect the popularity of this course at all. Even in the sports department, there are several muscular men staring at the computer screen. Qi Fei, we're going to start grabbing classes soon. What do you choose? Qi Fei finally came to class seriously, and some students couldn't even call him by his name. He faced the dilemma of only introducing himself to the whole class after a month of school. My name is Qi Fei, male, 21 years old. That's it. He succinctly and clearly output only this useful information, which is his name, and it immediately entered the hearts of a few girls in the class. The boy who was speaking was named Yuan. His skin was tanned and he ran to play basketball without moving. Everyone called him Dehei, which sounded like a dog's name. However, he was quite easygoing. I don't know, whatever. Qi Fei swung his mouse. I will compete with girls later and grab Qin Yan's class. Upon hearing Qin Yan, several boys around him also exploded and said, Dehei, you're not being kind. Aren't you going to choose Mr. Zhao, who is a Western philosopher? I've inquired about philosophy, but there aren't many people. They sleep too prominently, explained Dehei. Then you can't compete with us either. Come on, just your speed is definitely not as fast as those girls who are passionate about grabbing Double 11 promotional products. Give up. Qin Yan. Is he so popular that he can be both male and female? Qi Fei looked at the name of the course and had never mentioned Qin Yan to the public, so these classmates around him didn't know they were living with him now. It's like a scene in a dog blood TV drama, where there are school grass and school flowers, but in this school, the character is actually a teacher. It's really unbelievable. Here we go. There's 1 minute left, everyone ready? Someone shouted. Qi Fei was also brought into this tense atmosphere, and the mouse arrow unconsciously moved to the name of Qin Yan. Time has passed. The course selection button has turned gray, indicating that the course is fully booked on the computer screen. It reads, you have chosen the subject of Chinese modern and contemporary literature history. Please attend classes at Shuangjie 201 every Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. sharp. Who snatched it? Big Black roared, we don't have any, so I'll quickly step back and grab the biology department's beautiful teacher Qian's class. Don't be busy, I took a look and it's gone. See Western philosophy, brothers. Dehei leaned over and said, Qi Fei, let me see what you have chosen. Dehei glanced at the screen and said, sleeping slot. You've snatched teacher Qin's class. With this roar, everyone looked over and Qi Fei felt as if their brains were not very good. He turned off his computer, picked up his bag, and walked outside the door. Actually, Qi Fei didn't know why he chose his class. Since the last kiss, Qin Yan hadn't spoken to him for several days. Although he still followed behind him, he was like two strangers rushing the same path. He looked at Qin Yan's back and felt that this person was very careful. He would remember even a little thing until now. But he also felt strange. He couldn't sleep several times, and when he closed his eyes, he remembered the touch of his lips. They were very soft and clean, and his body also had a fragrant smell. Even at night, they sat at the dining table and Qin Yan cooked some bland dishes, which Qi Fei had always been unable to tolerate. However, he endured taking a few bites and occasionally went out to forage and have supper at night. Disgusting cuisine is like Qin Yan, who is bland and unfriendly, but he is polite to his students or neighbors. I chose your class. Qi Fei picked up a chopstick of celery and looked at it again and again before finally deciding to put it back in the bowl. I saw it, Qin Yan replied to him. As soon as he closed the course selection system, he glanced at the list, and the two characters, Qi Fei, were particularly prominent. So many people like you, are you very proud? Qi Fei. Qin Yan put down his chopsticks and looked at him with a deep gaze. Although you are trying your best to appear mature, you are still just a child. You are too young. Others' likes will not change me much. Pride is something I only had in my 20s. Now, I just want to attend classes well, get a professional title as soon as possible, and continue to achieve success in my education career. If I had been utilitarian from the beginning, then I wouldn't have taken the path of literature. Why do you like literature? Because a long time ago someone gave me a book called A Drunk Night in the Spring Breeze, and as I read it, I fell into the beauty of words. But I don't remember much, I lost a memory, only remembering that person was important to me. Looking at Qin Yan with wandering thoughts, Qi Fei felt that he was really charming. Just looking at his face was very pleasing to the eye. You like that person, Qi Fei said in affirmation. Qin Yan looked at him, but did not evade, and firmly said, yes, I like her. So, I don't like others approaching or touching me. The more it was like this, the more unhappy Qi Fei felt in his heart, as if he had been looked down upon. He had shaped himself so noble, as if he was saying that people like Qi Fei were dirty, and even touching him seemed to tarnish him. Qi Fei hasn't read many books and doesn't know these big principles, but he just thinks that when people get along, they come and go, and he says whatever he wants. It's too tiring to rely on guessing. He knew that Qin Yan actually looked down on him and relied on his brother to force him into the university to earn a diploma. He was also illiterate and skipped classes all day, fighting. But so, Qi Fei didn't want to make any changes. Teacher Qin, since you have such noble morals, you can save many people. Like Lu Sun abandoned medicine and studied literature. Why are you hiding here, pretending to marry others and settle down, and then arrogantly educating me? Fake Dukong's rhetoric is enough to deceive young girls. Also, I'm not a good person. My brother didn't tell you why I went to America, right? His smile suddenly became particularly terrifying, because I killed someone. Chapter 9. Injury. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A person with very beautiful eyes. Qi Fei seemed to have changed into a different person. He no longer disguised himself and was completely exposed in front of Qin Yan. So for me, a beauty is just a skin bag. He suddenly lowered his voice and approached Qin Yan, including you, Teacher Qin. Qin Yan was frightened by such Qi Fei, his body stiffened a bit, but he still pretended to be calm. Thank you for praising me as a beauty, although it sounds awkward. I know that Qi sent you over not just to let me take care of you. A child who hasn't appeared in a long time, the first time he returned to China was to stay at someone else's house, while his family has a huge influence. There should be hidden secrets, right? Seeing Qi Fei's reaction, Qin Yan knew he was right. I don't care if you killed someone or set fire, I admit you're crazy. But now you have no choice. Starting tomorrow, you learn to buy groceries and cook, and I won't raise idle people. Although discussing a very terrifying matter, Qin Yan forcefully brought the topic back to warmth. The conversation between the two ended again without any easing of the relationship. It wasn't until the door was closed that Qin Yan breathed a sigh of relief. Just a few days ago, he accidentally discovered a real pistol in Qi Fei's drawer. It was illegal to hide firearms without authorization, but he seemed indifferent. He said he had killed people, and Qin Yan believed that he could do anything. Qin Yan, who was still in a state of shock, slept anxiously all night. The next day, he was awakened by a loud noise. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and opened the bedroom door, only to see Qi Fei busy in the kitchen wearing an apron. He actually felt at ease with what he said yesterday, but the results were not satisfactory. Undercooked rice, half-cooked eggs, and pan-fried bread. It's much better than the unidentified object you made the first time you came to my house. At least now it won't kill anyone. Qin Yan thought for a long time before coming up with such a compliment. Qi Fei took the food out of the door and ate it himself. The steaming meat buns, golden deep-fried dough sticks, and delicious small wonton. In the future, you can eat the food I make, and I'll call my takeout. Aren't you not raising idle people? I'll take care of your food. Qin Yan took a deep breath and swallowed half an egg, accompanied by a smiling face, saying, "Okay, follow you." On Friday, Qin Yan put on formal attire. He didn't have classes today, so he made an appointment with Li Ying to register for divorce. Where are you going? Qi Fei followed behind him, even though they were in a fierce confrontation yesterday. Go get divorced. Hurry up and go to class. Qin Yan didn't want to pay attention to him, as there have been enough recent events at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Li Ying, whom she had not seen for a long time, arrived early and tidied up briefly. She looked very gentle. Qin Yan had previously admired her because of her own temperament. She had a master's degree in literature, but did not continue to work in the field of literature. She was just a small employee of a company. When we first met, she was forced to go on a blind date by her parents. When she met a sleazy man, Qin Yan helped her break free. So Qin Yan sat down at the blind man's seat and chatted with her. At that time, both of us were young and full of aspirations for the future. When talking about movies and books, our eyes were full of radiance. They both liked a movie called Once, enjoyed reading Wittgenstein, and also appreciated the extreme sadness written by Japanese author Yukio Mishima. It seems like two souls are very close, but people who are too similar will never come together. Have you all taken your documents? Li Ying asked him. Here we go, let's go in. Qin Yan habitually wanted to help her carry her bag, but felt that it was not suitable now. The staff repeatedly confirmed with them whether they had figured it out. Li Ying kept her head down, her eyes red, indicating that she had cried before. Qin Yan shook her hand and firmly said to the staff, "Yes, I have thought it out. Could you please help me?" After typing the seal, the two of them walked out with their respective divorce certificates. Li Ying said, "There's a coffee shop nearby. If you're not in a hurry, let's go have a drink." I couldn't think of any reason to refuse. After all, it might be difficult to meet again after this farewell. Qin Yan nodded and walked side by side with her. In the bustling crowd, everyone had their own story, but very few could intersect with each other. Li Ying took Qin Yan through 2 traffic lights and turned into a small alley. The road was quite unfamiliar and Qin Yan had never been before. He felt a bit strange and asked Li Ying, "Are you almost there?" Li Ying remained silent and kept her head down. Suddenly, she stopped, turned around, tears in her eyes, and said, "I hate you, Qin Yan." A group of people ran from somewhere and surrounded him, and Li Ying had already disappeared without a trace. A man with his arm wrapped in plaster walked out, the one Qi Fei had injured. "Teacher Qin, long time no see. The man's name is Luo Su, and he looks very dignified, but his whole body is full of evil energy. What do you want to do?" Qin Yan asked, feeling flustered in his heart, but never letting anyone see it. "Don't do anything. Thank you for divorcing Xiaoying. I'll take her to apply for a marriage certificate this afternoon. But if you make her sad, I won't be happy." Unexpectedly, it's still a romantic sentiment, Qin Yan thought to herself. He continued, "All right, you let me beat you up. After all, your student humiliated me and hurt me again. It's not excessive for you to be beaten up, is it?" Qin Yan glanced at these people and knew he couldn't escape today. He looked up and asked him, "Sure, how do you want to fight?" "Teacher Qin is delightful. Let's fight for each other. He broke my hand, and you should also fold one arm. Teacher Qin, do you think this is okay?" Luo Su smiled. Breaking an arm is not a minor injury, it means that future classes will be delayed. In a few days, he still has a topic to submit and needs to attend a defense in the city. This opportunity is very rare, and if he accepts his request, he will have to wait for another year. But there's no other way. After pondering for a long time, Luo Su seemed to have lost his patience. Qin Yan replied, "Okay, come on." After all, Qin Yan is a scholar who doesn't exercise much on weekdays, so when he saw the iron rod as thick as his arm, he took a few steps back in fear. 2 people behind him pressed down on his left and right shoulders, securing his hands, and Luo Su walked over with a wicked smile. Holding the iron rod, he raised his stick and threw it down at Qin Yan's arm. Qin Yan closed his eyes and waited for the pain to come, but it was a long time before he could wait. When he opened his eyes, he saw Qi Fei holding the stick with one hand, and no matter how hard Luo Su tried, he couldn't pull it away. "Are you the kid who brought it to your door today?" Luo Su looked at Qi Fei angrily. Qi Fei pushed Qin Yan aside, met his gaze, and with a slight force, the stick ran into Qi Fei's hand. Upon seeing this, everyone retreated one after another, some of whom had seen Qi Fei's strength and were wary of him. Roche also swallowed nervously, with a cold sweat floating on his forehead. They were ready to charge forward and trap Qi Fei together. The next second, everyone was stunned. Qi Fei picked up an iron rod and smashed it hard on his wrist, and the sound of bones breaking echoed through the entire alley. Qin Yan was completely intimidated. When he realized it, he quickly ran over and said, "Qi Fei, what are you doing?" Qi Fei still stood in place, but it was evident that his face was pale. The pain of breaking bones was not something that ordinary people could tolerate, but he endured it. He sneered and said, "Have you paid off yet? The next time I see you, you may not have broken your hands or feet, but your arms and legs. In the future, don't trouble Qin Yan about this matter. You crazy person." Luo Su evacuated with his people, leaving only Qi Fei and Qin Yan behind. Qi Fei couldn't hold on to his body and leaned against Qin Yan. Qin Yan supported him and immediately called 120 for emergency treatment, blaming him while saying, "You're really crazy. I've said it was me who caused this, so I'm still the one." His voice weakened a bit. Qin Yan anxiously looked towards the street, realizing that the ambulance had not yet arrived. Seeing Qi Fei's arm swaying and swaying, Qin Yan was very scared in his heart. What had happened to the child in his early 20s before him, so that he was not afraid of pain or death, found it. Here it is. As Qi Fei was about to stop, several men ran over and picked him up from Qin Yan's side. Qin Yan was afraid that it would be Luo Su's revenge, so he guarded carefully. However, he heard one of the men looking at Qi Fei and saying, "Young master, we're late." Young master. So they are together with Qi Fei. The sound of the ambulance also came, and Qi Fei was mounted on the car. Qin Yan wanted to follow, but was stopped by those people. "Mr. Qin, we can take care of it." Chapter 10. Kidnapping. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qi Fei was not taken to the hospital, and the ambulance was intercepted halfway. A business car stopped at the intersection and waited. After a simple treatment, the doctor in the car looked bewildered. The man in charge paid the fare and ordered several young men to take Qi Fei down. There wasn't much struggle, anyway, everything was already in this ghostly state. Qi Fei seemed to be a major prisoner, being escorted by a group of people. "He's haven't seen you in a few years, you're still a good dog." Qi Fei leaned his head against the car window. His arms had been simply fixed, but it still hurt to the bone being ridiculed by others. He's is not angry either. He doesn't seem to have much joy, anger, sorrow, or joy. As the most important character around the old man, he has been struggling for so many years and has never experienced any hardships. His shoulder-length hair, combined with his heroic face, is truly unforgettable. "Young master is joking. We will take you back to the mountain villa for treatment in a moment, there." Bang! Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and the wheels slipped and deviated. Everyone in the car was struggling to maintain balance, swaying and swaying. He solemnly opened the window, while his other hand grabbed Qi Fei's arm. Qi Fei closed his eyes and slightly raised the corner of his mouth. "Zige, the car's tires are flat, and the car behind is still chasing after us. This is a mountain road, not much distance from the villa. If you act recklessly, the people in this car may all die." He gave a tone and said, "You take the young master away first, take the small road behind you. I'll steer him away." After that, he sat in the driver's seat, adjusted his seat, pulled on his seatbelt, and his movements flowed smoothly. After confirming that Qi Fei had been taken away by his seatbelt, he took a deep breath and stepped on the accelerator. One tire on the front wheel is flat, and the car is no longer able to drive normally. The steering wheel was turned to a dead end, and now we can only do a good job. Fortunately, there were not many vehicles coming and going here. He stroked his hair, controlled the direction with one hand, and the cold wind poured in. His gaze was cold, looking at the oncoming car. Rapid transfer, the car parked horizontally in the middle of the road, and the body of the business car blocked all the way. The fearless car also rushed over at the fastest speed without any signs of braking. He looked at the face on the car, and the other person was also looking at him, their eyes facing each other, and the past was vividly remembered. There was another loud collision sound, and he felt his body shaking violently. His head was fixed by the airbags, giving him a suffocating feeling of being unable to breathe. The car was constantly pushed and slid for a long distance before finally coming to a stop. Blood flowed down from the top of my head, staining half of my face red. The man opened the car door and slowly walked over. His black leather shoes rang step by step, still in a suit and tie, always dressed so formally, paired with his iceberg-like face. He kicked open the car door with all his strength. His clothes were in tattered condition, and his arms were scratched several times. He looked like a wild beast just avoiding hunting, his eyes full of vigilance. The man crouched down and reached out his hand with clear knuckles, wiping away the blood from the corner of his mouth. "Guess, with your few cowardly subordinates, can you stop Qi Fei?" He stared at him, spat out a mouthful of blood, and a smile rose from the corner of his mouth. "Qi Yi, your news is so fast," he said. "Of course, that's my younger brother. As a brother, I have to protect him no matter what." He turned his head and didn't let Qi Ye's hand touch him. He looked at him with disgust and said, "You can't compete with him. Is that right?" Qi Yi looked at him playfully. He's leg was broken and he couldn't walk, but on his face, there was still only stubbornness. A qualified bodyguard had already been tempered. Qi Yi bent down to pick him up, and he struggled a few times. However, he was exhausted and could only let him take him away. "If you work hard for him, will he be reluctant to part with you?" "Qi Yi, let go of me. Either you kill me today, or I will definitely kill you." Qi Yi tied him to the car seat, and even if he was allowed to go, he couldn't escape. He breathed a sigh in his ear and whispered, "I remember your taste. It's been a long time since I tasted it, and I miss you so much. If you want to kill me, there's no rush. Either you'll die on my bed today, or I'll die on you." "You." His face turned red, and anger burst into his eyes. However, the more he looked indomitable and unyielding, the more itchy Qi Ye's heart became. He wished he could strip him naked here, piercing through him fiercely. A year ago, He was sent to the United States by the old man to carry out a mission and met Qi Yi, who was also there at the time. Qi Yi was schemed in business and suffered serious injuries, and He saved him. However, he used He to obtain an important secret and successfully won the project. The old man was very angry when he found out, and he gave He a chance to change his mind, which was to kill Qi Yi's most important assistant, a woman named Fang Yu. She was very important to Qi Yi, not only as a close bodyguard, but also as a treasure to obtain confidential information in the business world. No one knows what kind of relationship there is between Qi Yi and Fang Yu. Perhaps it's a lover or just an employment relationship, but due to her death, Qi Yi completely fell out with the old man and even sent more people to catch He. Finally, in an accident, He fell into Qi Yi's hands. He knew he couldn't escape. In fact, he had known Qi Yi a long time ago, but he didn't know much about him. He only knew that he was ruthless. Otherwise, relying solely on his strength, he couldn't have his current position. In his eyes, human life is like grass, and only power is supreme. How could you easily let go of someone like this who you cannot shake with emotional cards? He spent a period of inhumane days in his hands, and when he was rescued, his path was unstable. Now, that unpleasant past seems to have reappeared. He would rather die than fall into his hands. Are you afraid? Qi Yi saw through the rearview mirror that His face was pale and his body trembled slightly. Apart from the physical pain, the mental oppression made him even more anxious. He did not deny that he was indeed very afraid. He did not know what kind of means were waiting for him. What do you want? Catching me doesn't threaten anyone. You knew a long time ago that I'm just a dog. Who would pay the price for a dog? He bit his lips, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth to keep himself alert at all times. How about you be my dog? I'll love you well. He likes to see He like this, playing between his hands, but he can't help but give himself half of it. The destination has arrived. Qi's private villa is built in the wilderness, which most people cannot find. He opened the car door and bent down to hug Heezy. Heezy struggled desperately, "Don't touch me." Qi didn't listen to what he was shouting at all, forcing him to be held in his arms. Despite being all men, Qi was much taller and stronger than him. Heezy had received professional training and had super strong willpower and endurance, but unfortunately, in terms of physical suppression, he did have an advantage. Qi led the person to the bedroom on the second floor and saw the large bed. Heezy closed his eyes and threw the person onto the bed. Qi untied his tie with one hand and looked down at Heezy with a wicked smile, saying, "Not only do I want to touch you, but I also want to touch you."